Welcome back to Real Crime Stories, the podcast that brings you crime stories from around the world. Today, we look into the story of Tanya Janelle Carwell, a 16-year-old girl from Augusta, Georgia, whose life was stolen far too soon. After spending Easter Sunday at home with her family, Janelle vanished in the early morning hours of April 17, 2017. What followed was a confusing and unsettling investigation filled with shifting stories, unanswered questions, and growing fear. Nearly a year would pass before the truth about what happened to Janelle finally came to light, and when it did, it revealed a horror no one was prepared for. It was the middle of the night on April 17, 2017. 16-year-old Tanya Janelle Carwell, known to everyone simply as Janelle, should have been home asleep, dreaming about the sweet 16th birthday party she was supposed to celebrate later that day. Instead, just after 1 a.m., Janelle left her house. According to her mother, Janelle got into a car with her stepfather, Leon Tripp, and that was the last time anyone would see her alive. By morning, neither Janelle nor Leon had returned home. Hours passed. Calls went unanswered. Text messages were ignored. As the day dragged on, concern slowly turned into panic. By that evening, Janelle's mother picked up the phone and called the police. "I am calling to report a missing person," she told the dispatcher, her voice tense with worry. She explained that her husband and her daughter had left the night before and hadn't come back. That call marked the beginning of a search that would grip the community and raise questions almost immediately. Tanya Janelle Carwell was born on April 17, 2001, in Palestine, Texas. But Augusta, Georgia, was the place she called home. In 2017, Janelle was a sophomore at T.W. Josie High School. Teachers described her as the kind of student every educator hopes for: smart, respectful, and driven. She was an honor student with big dreams, and she talked often about wanting to become a doctor. A family friend, Pastor Angela Hardin, later described Janelle as loving, intelligent, and full of promise. That's how people remembered her: bright, kind, and determined. At home, her life appeared simple. Janelle lived with her mother, Tanya Tripp, her stepfather Leon, and her younger sister. She was just a teenager with her whole future ahead of her. But every story has a moment, the one where everything shifts. For Janelle, that moment came on a day that should have been remembered only for joy. April 16, 2017 was Easter Sunday. That morning, Janelle got dressed in a yellow outfit and headband and went to church with her family. After the service, they returned home. Later that day, the family gathered again for a cookout. Tanya, Leon, Janelle, her little sister, and a family friend spent the evening together. It was the kind of ordinary, warm holiday that feels safe: food on the grill, laughter in the background, kids moving in and out of the house. For Janelle, it was the last day she would ever be 15. Her 16th birthday was just hours away. As the night ended and the house grew quiet, no one realized they had just lived through the final normal day of Janelle's life. Sometime around 1 a.m., Tanya would later tell deputies that Leon received a phone call from a friend named Morris. According to her, Morris was stranded with car trouble near Clarks Hill, South Carolina. Leon decided to help. Tanya said Leon took Janelle with him because he didn't want to drive alone, and because he needed help using the GPS. There was, Tanya said, one more moment after they left. She said she spoke to them by phone around 2 a.m. She said her younger daughter had come to her and told her Janelle was gone. Tanya heard the front door slam and immediately called Leon. Before she could even ask where Janelle was, Leon cut her off. He told her he had taken Janelle with him because he didn't know how to work his phone properly. Tanya said she accepted the explanation. Leon then handed the phone to Janelle. Janelle told her mother she loved her. Tanya said it was the last time she would ever hear her daughter's voice. As investigators began reviewing the missing persons report, several details stood out immediately. 2 people were missing: not just a teenage girl, but the adult who was supposed to be protecting her. The trip had happened in the middle of the night on a school night. The destination was out of state. The reason involved a vague friend and car trouble, and both phones had gone silent. And then there was the date. It was Janelle's 16th birthday. By that same evening, around 8 p.m., Tanya officially filed a missing persons report with the sheriff's office. Deputies began searching for Janelle and Leon as the community rallied together, praying for their safe return. But as the hours turned into days, hope slowly began to fade. What truly happened in the early morning hours of April 17th would remain hidden for nearly a year, and when the truth finally emerged, it would reveal a betrayal so devastating that it shattered everything people thought they knew. If Janelle had answered the phone for anyone that day, it would have been her mother. And from the very beginning, this case didn't look like a teenager simply slipping away. It looked like a disappearance with a built-in witness, except the witness was missing too. At first, the story sounded simple enough. A favor for a friend, a quick drive, plans to be back before dawn. But almost immediately, the investigation ran into silence, crossed timelines, and explanations that felt too thin to hold. In those early days, the quiet itself became overwhelming. Friends printed flyers. Neighbors searched porches, ditches, and cul-de-sacs. Pastor Angela Hardin went live on Facebook, with Tanya sitting beside her, explaining in a tired, strained voice why she hadn't gone with them that night. On camera, Tanya said she had serious health problems. She claimed she was battling brain and lung cancer and had been struggling to breathe after smoke from the cookout. According to her, Leon told her to lie down and took Janelle instead, saying she needed rest. Tanya told viewers she had called and texted through the night, getting no response. She said she wanted her daughter back yesterday. The live stream became a rallying point. Messages poured in. Small donations came through. A reward fund began to form. And behind the scenes, detectives continued working, listening closely for anything that sounded like a lead. One finally did, and it wasn't in South Carolina, but in Augusta. On April 20th, Tanya reported her white pickup truck stolen. It was a 1990 GMC Sierra, the same truck Leon and Janelle had allegedly left in. She said it was either still with them or had been taken. 6 days later, the truck reappeared. On April 26th, it was found parked and empty on Old McDuffie Road, just a mile from the house. Technicians searched it piece by piece. No broken glass, no blood, no answers hidden in the seams. The truck offered a clue but no story. So investigators turned to something people rarely think about in moments like this: their phones. Cell tower data painted a clear picture. Both phones had stayed local, bouncing off towers around Augusta. There was no evidence of a late-night drive to South Carolina, no stranded friend, no long trip at all. And then there was one more detail that couldn't be ignored. Janelle's digital life, usually active, went completely silent after that night. Now there was a truck back near the house, 2 phones that never left town, and a teenage girl who vanished without leaving a digital trace. Searches continued, prayers continued, but the story that began with a 1 a.m. favor was starting to change shape. By the end of the week, investigators were certain of 3 things. The truck had returned to the neighborhood, the phones never left Augusta, and Janelle's online world had gone still. Then the tips began pulling them west. On April 21st, just days after he was last seen with Janelle, Leon Tripp surfaced in Atlanta. Not a rumor, a confirmed sighting, then another. Detectives learned Leon had connections there, friends who opened doors, couches where he could disappear for a night or two. According to the sheriff, Leon made multiple trips between Augusta and Atlanta while the search for him and Janelle was still active. The tips all said the same thing. Leon was alive. He was moving freely. He appeared unharmed. But none of those sightings included Janelle. No one saw her in the city. No one saw her on the road. Her name never appeared alongside his. Only Leon's did. On May 1st, urgency replaced hope. Authorities issued a kidnapping warrant for Leon Tripp. What began as a missing persons case officially became a manhunt. The tone inside the sheriff's office hardened. State agencies and the U.S. Marshals were brought in. Bulletins went out. The message was clear: if you see him, call, do not approach. In Augusta, searches continued. Vigils were held. The reward fund grew. Flyers once labeled missing were replaced with a single word: kidnapping. Local news led nightly broadcasts with the same grim sequence: the truck found, phones that never left town, Leon seen alone in Atlanta, and now a warrant for his arrest. But through it all, the focus never shifted. Not to the chase, not to the man on the run. Reporters also repeated what mattered most: that Janelle was still missing, and every segment ended with a tip line. Because with every new sighting of Leon, the silence around Janelle grew heavier. No calls, no pings, no sign she was still alive. Just one question that pressed harder with each passing day: where is she? In the early morning hours of April 17, 2017, Tanya Janelle Carwell, known as Janelle, disappeared from Augusta, Georgia, along with her stepfather, Leon Tripp. 3 weeks later, a kidnapping warrant was issued for Leon, and Janelle was still nowhere to be found. With confirmed sightings of Leon continuing in Atlanta, detectives widened their search and turned their focus inward, asking a different question: who exactly were they chasing? As investigators pulled records, a clearer picture of Leon Tripp began to emerge. His criminal history in Georgia stretched back to 2001, spanning multiple counties. The charges included cruelty to children in the third degree, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and battery. It was a past marked by violence, and it mattered now because it could explain how he moved, where he went, and why Janelle may have been taken. According to Tanya, she first met Leon when they were teenagers. Years later, they reconnected while he was incarcerated. What began as letters turned into phone calls, then into a relationship. In 2011, they married while Leon was still in prison. When he was paroled in 2015, he came home to Augusta, to Tanya, her children, and her mother, who has since passed away. Another perspective came from someone who knew Leon well. His ex-wife, identified publicly as Kay, spoke in an exclusive interview with WJBF. She described Leon as a church-going family man who could fix just about anything with an engine. But she also said alcohol brought out something darker: old anger, old wounds. According to her, when Leon drank, his abuse escalated. She said that when she tried to leave him, he forced his way into her apartment and into her children's room. That incident, she said, led to the cruelty to children charge. Even so, Kay did not believe Leon had killed Janelle or taken her far from home. She described him as someone who stayed close to what she called his center of gravity, Oakland City, on Atlanta's southwest side. That, she said, was his world. He didn't roam far. And if Janelle was anywhere, Kay believed she would be near the places Leon knew best. For detectives, those details didn't just add character, they shaped strategy. Leon had deep ties in Atlanta, particularly around Oakland City. His history suggested volatility, especially when drinking, and a pattern of staying within familiar territory. Combined with the sightings, the search narrowed. Fewer miles, more focus. As Leon's past came into sharper view and news of the warrant spread, attention began to shift toward Tanya and what she would say next. On May 2nd, just one day after the kidnapping warrant was issued, Tanya sat down for an on-camera interview. By then, rumors were swirling, and the community was already asking difficult questions. What was really going on? When asked about the charges against her husband, Tanya did not align herself with investigators. She said that in her heart and mind, she did not believe Leon had kidnapped their daughter. Then came the question many had been whispering: whether Janelle might have been in a relationship with her stepfather. Tanya shut it down immediately, saying, "He married a pretty lady like me. No way he is doing that," she said, gesturing to herself. "And he's gonna run away with our daughter. Come on now, that's stupid." The comment landed heavily. To some, it sounded like a mother fiercely defending her husband against an accusation she found unthinkable. To others, it widened the growing gap between the family's version of events and the sheriff. The interview didn't calm the waters. If anything, it stirred them. Still, in the weeks that followed, much of the community rallied around Tanya. They saw a mother who claimed she was battling cancer while facing every parent's worst nightmare. But just as that support solidified, the investigation took a turn no one was ready for. After weeks of searching, U.S. Marshals confirmed what investigators suspected: Leon Tripp was still in Atlanta. He had been spotted multiple times, including on surveillance footage at a local gas station just 4 days after Janelle vanished. And once again, he was alone. On May 23, 2017, U.S. Marshals finally zeroed in on Leon Tripp. They learned he was planning to return a truck at a local U-Haul facility, and officers moved in. That's where they found him. After more than a month of searching, Leon Tripp was standing right in front of them. But he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was his wife, Tanya, the same woman who had repeatedly told investigators and the public that she had no idea where her husband was. The discovery stunned law enforcement. "We were extremely shocked when we found her and him actually together," the sheriff later told True Crime Daily. "That's when we got that sick feeling that this case was not heading in a good direction." Tanya claimed it was a coincidence, that she and Leon just happened to end up at the same U-Haul location. Investigators didn't believe her. Both were arrested. Leon was charged with kidnapping. Tanya was charged with hindering the apprehension of a suspect. At that point, authorities didn't yet know how much Tanya knew or how deeply she was involved, but they would soon find out. News of the arrest spread quickly, and for a brief moment, the city held its breath. Questions replaced whispers. Why were they together? How long had they been in contact? And most importantly, where was Janelle? As officials confirmed the arrests, public support for Tanya began to evaporate, replaced by disbelief and doubt. 2 adults were now in custody, and a 16-year-old girl was still missing. Once in custody, investigators read Leon his rights. He acknowledged why they were there and agreed to talk. Leon told detectives that the night Janelle disappeared, they left the house to help a friend with car trouble and then continued to Atlanta. He claimed they stayed with a relative. He said it was Janelle's 16th birthday and she wanted to shop. According to Leon, after 2 or 3 days in the city, he gave Janelle $400. He said she planned to shop and then take a bus back to Augusta. When he returned from work later that day, she was gone. He assumed she had already left. Leon claimed he worked in Atlanta the rest of the week. When he returned home that weekend, Tanya asked where Janelle was, and he said he told her he didn't know. He said that was the first moment he realized Janelle hadn't made it back, and the first time he understood police were searching for both of them. About an hour into the interview, Leon shut it down. He said he had told investigators everything he knew, said he hoped they would find Janelle, and the questioning ended. He was booked into the Richmond County Jail. It was a story filled with places, money, and a bus ride no one else could verify. And it wouldn't be the last version investigators heard, because none of it made sense. How could Leon go an entire week without contacting his wife? How could he not know his stepdaughter was missing when the entire city of Augusta had been searching for her for nearly a month? Police weren't buying it. When it came to Tanya, investigators soon realized she had been lying from the very beginning. Phone records showed she had been in contact with Leon multiple times in the weeks after Janelle disappeared. They also learned Tanya had been evicted from the family home in Augusta and had moved to Atlanta, where she was living with Leon. The arrests of both parents were a devastating turn. Even if Tanya believed her husband was innocent, she had spent weeks lying to protect him instead of helping authorities find her daughter. Leon and Tanya were arraigned and denied bond. By then, the investigation had shifted again, from kidnapping to homicide. Search warrants were executed at the former family home. Evidence was collected, and because Tanya's story had completely unraveled, investigators had to rebuild the timeline from scratch. Leon was questioned multiple times while in custody, but it was what he said during a June 9, 2017, interview that confirmed what investigators already suspected. According to court records, Leon told detectives, "I'm tired. I want to see my 2 daughters and my mama. I want to see my wife. And I'll tell y'all what's going on, where she is, all that, because I'm tired." He didn't say much, but in that moment he said everything. However, still without a body, investigators were stuck. To prove what they believed had happened, they needed to find Janelle. She was the final missing piece. Nearly a year later, that piece was found. In March 2018, police received a call from someone surveying a property in the 2200 block of Golden Camp Road. They had discovered what appeared to be human remains buried in a shallow grave. The location was just a short distance from Janelle's home. When investigators arrived, they confirmed the remains were human and badly decomposed. The coroner was able to identify them quickly. It was Janelle. She had been there the entire time. With that discovery, prosecutors had what they needed. Charges against Leon and Tanya were upgraded to murder. A grand jury returned indictments that reshaped the entire case. Prosecutors alleged Leon killed Janelle sometime between April 16 and May 23, 2017. They alleged Tanya participated within that same window and deliberately misled authorities about how her daughter was taken. Leon was also charged with cruelty to children, accused of binding Janelle's limbs and inflicting severe physical and mental pain that resulted in her death. The allegations are written plainly in court records. At the center of them all is a 16-year-old girl who should still be here. The charges brought movement but not closure. Years passed, court dates were set then delayed. And justice for Janelle continued to wait. Thank you for watching Real Crime Stories. Share your thoughts on the story, like and subscribe to the channel. Until the next episode, stay vigilant.